start to go pretty bad for the Madrigals, as the villagers now blame the once magical family for the loss of the magic, along with the Casita's destruction, with Alma being seen as the direct cause of the magic disappearing, which isn't too far off, but still. As a result of being left homeless, the Madrigals are now forced to sleep in the homes of their closest friends for the time being. Juliet and her family end up staying with Alita Sanchez, who was a local baker in the Encanto and one of her closest friends, along with being a fellow chef, while Peppa and her family end up staying with the Fuentes family due to Camilo and Dolores being close friends with the Fuentes' daughter, Bonita. As for Bruno, his whereabouts are still unknown to everyone, as he disappeared during the Casilla's destruction and nobody had known about him being inside the casita this whole time, at least like with the exception of Dolores. But now that her gift is gone, not even she's able to tell where he is for the time being. As for Alma, however, things have gotten much worse for her, as thanks to the argument she had with Mirabelle right before the casita fell apart and Mirabelle disappeared, the whole family now blames her for Mirabelle's absence, especially since they overheard and witnessed some of the argument, like from afar, or thanks to Dolores. And as a result, nobody wants to stay by her side, and she ends up having to stay with the priest, Senor Flores, as a result, while being isolated by everyone else because of her actions. As for the family, or themselves, they end up deciding to search for Mirabelle along with some of Mirabelle's friends and the other more considerate villagers. But unfortunately, because they don't know about her being in Mexico and not being within Colombia anymore, she is unfortunately out of their reach and they are unable to find her as a result. And the fact that Alma decided to cancel the search parties doesn't make things any better, while also making her lose her popularity and once respectable position as the leader. Though the reason why she canceled the parties was not because she didn't care for Mirabelle, but because she was just trying to reserve enough energy so they can search for Mirabelle later. Well, that, and she believed that Mirabelle would come back to them one day. Though, sadly, because everyone has basically lost trust in Alma, nobody believes her, which makes the situation even more tense, depressing. Even worse is that Isabella starts to lose her sanity the more Mirabelle stays away, as her guilt, along with her regret for mistreating Mirabelle, causes her to slowly lose her sanity to the point of suffering nightmares as well as having hallucinations. And it gets to the point where she starts playing with a rag doll that happens to resemble Mirabelle, who she nicknames Mini Mirror due to having been one of Mirabelle's old toys, until Mirabelle stopped playing with her. And as a way to cope with Mirabelle's loss, she ends up playing with the mini mirror doll while pretending that it's her. And the fact that she also refuses to change her clothes and prefers to wear her dress because it's the only thing she has left of Mirabelle also doesn't make things any easier for her. Well, that, along with the fact that she doesn't sleep, eat, or bathe properly anymore, also causes her physical health as well as her mental health to slowly decline, which concerns the others, especially the Madrigals. During a meal, Peppa and her family also discuss Isabella's declining sanity. However, they also become worried over what happened to both Mirabel and Bruno, as they were the last two Madrigals to leave without a trace, with Antonio fearing that the whole thing was his fault because, as he points out, the family forgot to include Mirabel in the photo, which makes Peppa and Felix feel horrified and guilt-ridden, as they genuinely thought she was in the photo with them until they realized that she wasn't, because they were so caught up in the festivities that they forgot about her, which makes everyone feel even more guilt-ridden. And when Antonio leaves the dining table out of guilt over Mirabel not being in the photo and fearing that she ran away because of him, Camilo ends up eating his food in his place, as they can't afford to waste food now that they're basically homeless. Unfortunately, once Alma shows up, things get even more tense as she makes the mistake of commenting on Camilo eating more food than usual, thus causing Peppa and her family to finally snap at her, with Dolores being the first to go on a rant about how Alma had done nothing to help her with her gift, especially given how Dolores often got in trouble because of she couldn't turn off her gift due to how loud everything was. And the fact that only her parents and Mira bothered to help Dolores made this moment even more personal, as Dolores had missed seeing Mirabel as one of the few friends she even had, and now thanks to Alma, she's gone, possibly for good. And even worse is that Alma never bothered to truly care for any of them unless it benefited her, which horrifies Alma, as not even she's that cruel to do something like that to her family. And as for Camilo, he's the second to start yelling at Alma, revealing that the real reason as to why he eats so much food is not because he does for fun, but it's because he started stress eating as a way to cope with his gift being overused and how nobody other than Mirabelle ever truly understood him. He even admits that losing their gifts was probably the best thing that ever happened to them, as they can now be normal again, unlike Alma, who would rather prefer that they be slaves to their gifts instead of living normal lives like they should. Once he finishes his rant, he then goes to find Antonio, but not before warning Alma to stay away from him and his siblings for good. When Alma tries to apologize for her behavior, Peppa unfortunately cuts her off and begins her own rant by revealing how much she hated her gift and how little her mother did to actually help her, with Felix being the only one who actually helped her at all, or at least helped her the most when it came to her gift. She then finishes her rant by disowning Alma, with Felix also rejecting Alma's attempts at apologizing before they go find the other madrigals. Alma is then left all alone with a crowd of villagers who overheard their rant and show nothing but shame and disappointment in her, which makes Alma feel even worse, thus putting her through quite the emotional ringer. She goes to find her family at a nearby meadow in order to talk to them and at least apologize to them one last time, but unfortunately, when she tries to talk to them, they keep giving her the cold shoulder, with Peppa and Felix outright ignoring her so they can find Mirabel again, thus leaving Julieta, Augustine, Isabella, Dolores, Louisa, and Antonio being the only ones present, as Camilo had gone back to the Fuentes residence to have some alone time as a result of his rant. Alma begins her apology and tries to give a speech on how she will never hurt her family with her controlling behavior again. Dolores is the first to reject her and points out how in the past Alma would never have done something like that due to how stubborn she was. And despite Alma's pleas that she has changed, the others sadly don't believe her, with Louisa ranting about how she had to suffer as the villagers' work animal for years thanks to her grandmother, insisting that Louisa use her gift to benefit the villagers, whether she liked it or not. And even when Alma insists that she didn't know about the villagers overworking Louisa, the once powerful and physically strong Madrigal angrily retorts to Alma over how, thanks to her, Louisa never felt like she had any worth or purpose without her gift, or at least if she didn't use her gift properly, and finishes her rant by pointing out how Isabella deserved an apology from Alma the most, and if the old woman couldn't do that, then she doesn't deserve any forgiveness from Louisa or anyone else in the Madrigal family. When Alma goes to apologize to Isabella, she is given the biggest and the most blistering speech by the eldest granddaughter over how much she hated being the perfect golden child and how she never asked to be married to Mariano, as that was what Alma wanted, but not her. When Isabella bitterly points out how Mirabel was the only person who truly helped her and understood her, despite their strained relationship, Alma realizes now that she did not understand Isabella like she thought she did, and can only stand there as Isabella leaves in a huff. When Alma tries to apologize to Julieta, her eldest daughter ends up coldly rejecting her, while telling her to stay away from her and her family, and even disowns her just like Peppa did, thus breaking Alma's heart even further. As a result, Antonio is the only member of the family that Alma tries to approach, only for him to question her on whether she would have mistreated him like she did for Mirabelle had he not gotten his gift, which leaves Alma completely speechless. Unfortunately, when she fails to answer that question, he takes it as a sign that she would have actually treated him badly and leaves feeling both angry and hurt over her supposed answer. Alma is then left all alone in the meadow and can only cry and beg for Pedro to forgive her as she weeps over the damage that she caused. The chapter ends with a mysterious figure silently watching over her from the forest with pity, though who this mysterious figure is left ambiguous. Mirabelle is helping babysit Manny, Benny, and baby Coco with Miguel and Rosa, while also talking with them about more details regarding her past. When she mentions how almost nobody came to her birthdays, with her 11th birthday and quinceanera being the worst in her eyes, Miguel and Rosa feel compelled to try and do something about it in order to make her happy. Miguel then comes up with the idea to prepare a quinceanera party for Mirabelle in Santa Cecilia, to which the rest of his family are very eager to help with. In preparation for the makeshift quinceanera, which was to be held next Monday, the Riveras quickly gathered the necessary items and people that they need for the party, while making sure to keep it a secret from Mirabelle herself. Mirabelle herself is given a tour of Santa Cecilia by Miguel, along with some mariachis that he had become friends with, including the same mariachi whose shoes were being shined by Miguel. And for this story, the mariachi's name is Chiro, since we don't know his actual name in the original movie. Though Chiro teases Miguel and Mirabelle over the possibility of them dating, they both quickly shoot down any ideas of them being a couple, though they do laugh and joke about it before dinner. That night, Mirabelle talks with Mama Coco, who assures her that there is at least one person who cares about her back in the Encanto, though Mirabelle highly doubts it, as she has come to believe that nobody wants her around anymore. Meanwhile, back in the Encanto, Antonio feels lonely without Mirabelle and can only watch the moon while vowing to find Mirabelle one day and bring her back home. Finally, once Monday comes, Mirabelle is invited by Luisa and Gloria Rivera to join them at the beach with Mama Coco and the babies. As they relax and play in both the sand and the water, Luisa and Gloria suggest that Mirabelle could stay with the Riveras permanently if that's what she wants, to which Mirabelle becomes conflicted over whether that would be a good idea or not. When Enrique calls Gloria through her cell phone, she immediately wraps up the beach picnic and brings everyone back home, leaving Mirabelle worried that something bad has happened. Fortunately, Mirabelle finds out that is not the case, as the whole town has arrived at the Rivera household to surprise her and give her a happy quinceanera. Mirabelle is touched by this gesture and thanks everyone before getting changed into her new party dress that the Riveras bought for her. She even receives her own crown as well as her new shoes as per tradition in Mexican culture, while also getting to dance with the Riveras. Overall, the party proves to be a great success, with Mirabelle having lots of fun and enjoying herself for once. Once she receives her many gifts from the Riveras and happily accepts them after the party is over, she ends up visiting the ofrenda room with Miguel while the Riveras are cleaning up, as the two talk about how much they miss their deceased relatives and how much they wish to see them again. Something miraculous happens. The chapter ends with Mirabelle and Miguel suddenly being sucked through a mystical vortex that drags them in before bringing them to the land of the dead.